Hey everybody, welcome to episode 42 of the Return Policy. Today I'm doing a double mini review on the PDP branded Face-Off wired Pro controller, as well as the other PDP branded Deluxe wired Pro controller for your Nintendo Switches. So once again, big shout out and a thanks to the commenter Minor17. I really don't want to mess up the pronunciation, so I might have to get some clarification on that. But awesome, thank you again for suggesting these. And I wanted to technically, do kind of a review. I purchased one, and I thought, why not review the other one as well, since they're either both on sale or they're definitely both a cheaper alternative to the Nintendo Pro controller. And so that kind of got me thinking, oh, let me go ahead and pick them up, test them out, see if it actually is a decent alternative, although wired versus the wireless capabilities of the Pro controller. I still wanted to test both of these out and see if they hold up. So for the double mini review, I'm going to start off with the regular Face-Off wired Pro controller, and overall the texture and the feel of it is quite nice. It has a decent grip to it. It doesn't feel like it'll be too too cheaply made. The trigger buttons are actually quite nice, and the buttons they feel okay. They sound okay, and they feel a little bit hollow because primarily the gimmick for this one here allows you to take off the cover as well as the obligatory turbo button for these third-party controllers. So this does give you the ability to use a turbo button feature. But besides that, as well as the detachable USB cable, so if anything trips or yanks out, it'll actually take the cable with it and not the whole controller, which is also a plus. But besides that, the weight is quite light. I know it doesn't have a battery like the wireless Nintendo Switch Pro controller, but it doesn't feel that too much of a quality type of material. Not saying that the texture of the material is nice, but the quality of the material doesn't seem like it'll hold up through lots and lots of sessions. And say if it's stuck in a bag or whatnot, it could get damaged even with the removable faceplate. And so I'll go into a little bit more in-depth use of this guy here. So overall, how do games play on the regular wired Pro controller from PDP? Well, to be honest, they don't play that very well. Since the controller itself is kind of on the light side, it doesn't have that very kind of confident grip to it, to be honest. And one of the main features, the gimmicks that I wanted to use the most was the turbo button. And the heck, that thing didn't even work that well. I mean, you try to sync the turbo button, it works, but say, okay, you know what, I'm done. I just want to go back in the regular, sheep button, metal slug, or whatnot. And all of a sudden, you try to disable the turbo button, and the button itself stops functioning altogether. Even though read the directions on the instruction manual, and I couldn't get the dang thing to disable, other than just having to disconnect the USB cable and letting it resync. Oh, and speaking of syncing with the controller, I actually even had an issue trying to sync the controller, because once in a while it would actually lose the connection and everything's plugged in, but the controller itself would become disconnected. You'd see the little pop-up on your Switch screen saying please repair this controller. And all of those issues definitely added up to an very unpleasant experience using the wired Pro controller. And that's how I was trying to play games with this thing for the last 2 weeks. So the next one I'm going to review is the Deluxe wired Pro controller. And this one you can definitely tell that it does have a decent amount of gimmicks as opposed to the other wired Pro controller. One being you do get 2 faceplates. I'm putting on my Luigi green here as far as my favorite color, Ninja Turtle green. And you have your regular Mario red right there. And so you can actually, interchange the faceplates. And if you did happen to buy all the 2 of the controllers, you can swap out those faceplates as well too with the regular wired Pro controller. And so the actual build quality of the Deluxe, you can definitely tell there's a stark difference between this one and the regular Pro controller. And it does have the same buttons. The texture is actually quite nicer. It's a little bit more refined as opposed to the other wired Pro controller, and has an extra gimmick that definitely caught my eye, which is the mappable paddle buttons here on the reverse side of the controller. And so the buttons definitely feel just a tad bit more stiff, a little bit better, and the D-pad still feels good as well too. But also the thumbsticks are actually metal as opposed to the other controller, which is just more of a traditional plastic on here. So what it comes down to is how do the games feel and play with the Deluxe wired Pro controller, and I gotta admit it plays just fine, pretty well actually. If I had to compare it to the official Nintendo Pro controller, in an obvious ways, the Nintendo Pro controller does have a lot more features, including the HD rumble and the NFC support for the amiibos. But for the price point that this one here is going for, it actually does quite the trick. You can definitely feel the quality with the metal thumbsticks, as well as a nice texture on the back. The mappable paddle buttons, I tried a few games that I thought I would put it to good use, such as Fortnite, or even some kind of platformers, maybe weapon switching, and I found myself not really using it as much as I thought I would. It's still nice to have it there. I still have big hands, so I tend to kind of grip the controller and accidentally activate those paddle buttons more often than I would have liked. And since they're just mapped from one of the controller buttons to one of those paddle buttons, you know, it's just nice to have an extra method of pressing that button. So in the case of maybe first-person shooters where you're dedicating both of your thumbs to the sticks, you can use the paddle buttons, you know, to jump or crouch, change weapon. So it's kind of cool having that extra feature. But you know, for the games that I was trying to mess around with it I wasn't really using it that much. It is still a nice gimmick. Would I trade that for Turbo? That's a good question. I probably would have liked having Turbo, since I tend to enjoy platform shooters just as much. But overall, it was a nice feature to add. Not necessarily a deal maker or even a deal breaker, but playing games with this controller felt really nice. Felt natural. The swappable faceplates, I mean, you get the bright red or the bright green. If you actually bought the regular wired Pro controller, then you get a third one. But I think they just wanted to entice the deal so people can pick up this controller. And for the price point, or the discounted price point, it's pretty good. It's pretty good, and it plays pretty good. All right, so anyways, with all three of these controllers tested and kind of compared and contrasted against each other, with the wired Pro controller, the Deluxe wired Pro controller, and just for safe measure, the Nintendo Switch Nintendo Pro controller itself. And I kind of wanted to test all three, just kind of get a decent kind of feel for the one that I'm reviewing today, for the PDP branded ones. And it came out as a clear winner that one definitely outperforms the other. And so with the regular wired Pro controller, I had quite a bit of issues with this one. Not only just for the syncing issues, even though I've had to plug and unplug the USB cable to get the console to recognize the controller, but also I couldn't even get the turbo button to function as just a regular turbo button. Sometimes when you press the button and you map it, it works, and then you want to turn it off, you press it, and then the button itself stops working until you have to either resync the controller or try again. And so the verdict for the PDP branded Face-Off wired Pro controller, this one is a return it for sure. And so, on the other hand, on the deluxe controller, which has a very nice feel, has the metal thumbsticks, a very nice grip for the actual thumbsticks, and the mappable pads. Not necessarily a programmable. I thought it was programmable. That's my mistake. But the remappable pad, so you can actually have any other functional buttons working on there. I did like it. You know, it feels good. It's still a little bit on the light side, even though I kind of want my controllers more heavier battery. But since there's no NFC for amiibos, the high definition vibration is not in here. The HD rumble is not on here, so you do kind of miss out on a little of the extra features that the Nintendo Pro Controller itself offers for that, you know, much higher price. But as an alternative, it is nice. I do like it. I didn't really get that much use out of this, even though it does allow you to map those buttons. I didn't find that many games that I would probably take advantage of it. You might have much better luck than me, though. All in all, if you did want to find an alternative, I mean, I got this at a discounted price for $24.99. But if you do like the look of it and you still see it on either online or even in store shelves, you probably won't go wrong with this one. It's worth it. It's worth at least a keep it. Compared to the other one, I would say on the regular wired Pro controller, stay away from that. If you have to choose, pay a little bit extra for this one. Yeah, this one is a better alternative to the Face-Off controller, the other Face-Off controller. But if you wanted to go for, you know, what Nintendo has to offer, it's still one of the best kind of controllers, you know, D-pad notwithstanding, of course, but it's still one of the best feeling kind of Pro controllers that Nintendo has produced. And so, just to recap, this one is a return it, and this guy here is a keep it. Anyways, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this little mini review or double mini review that I did on the PDP Face-Off controllers. I hope it was in any way informative, and if you thought it was kind of helpful and offered some decent insight, please feel free to hit that like button. If you already prefer the Nintendo Switch Pro controller and these guys just don't cut it, go ahead and hit that dislike button. That's cool too. And I do plan on making a few more of these videos definitely in the future, and hopefully a little bit further along than that. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can stick around with me for the semi-long run. Other than that, just want to say thanks again for taking the time to watch these little mini reviews, and I'll see you next time.